Hey everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how adding too many people to your e-learning project will absolutely kill your course. All right, welcome back. So in the last video, I talked about how the quality isn't really going up with online courses, and it could be so much better. But in that video, I mentioned that if you add in too many people to your e-learning course production, things can go awry. And I see this all the time. In fact, before I even started on Udemy, or right as when I started on Udemy, I started working with some other companies. And you know, these companies that I've worked with set the template that the way I do things at Mammoth. And this is something that's quite interesting, you know, when it comes to production. So after working with a lot of these companies, one of the things that really stuck out was when it comes to your course, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you kind of go from A to B as quickly as possible. And I know that sounds really basic, but it's true. And a lot of companies, what they do is, you know, you'll do like maybe, let's say there's 5 sections. You do section 1, they ask for some revisions. Okay, then section 2, then they ask for some revisions. And then they go to section 3 and you're like, okay, well, I'm almost done. And then they get like another person to go back to section 1, and then they say, okay, you got to revise this again. Oh, and by the way, that stuff you made in section 1, you have to go back to section 2 and 3 and redo all that stuff. And so all of a sudden it becomes this huge mess here, okay? So one of the things that you need to do is you need to plan things ahead, and you want to think of things as smoothly as possible. You want to think of your course development like a river, right? And you want to flow down this river with very little problems. And of course, there might be rapids that you might have to to navigate through, but it's basically like you start here and you got to end up in another spot, and you want it to be as smooth as possible here. And one of the ways that you don't do this is you don't get too many editors here, right? So most of the editing should be done even before you start video. So if you're making a video course, the video should be very smooth. You should have most of your stuff kind of figured out before you do your video here. Right? Now, some people script their videos 100%, and it seems like it's too much work to do, right? There should be some kind of ad lib to what you're doing. So with coding courses, the best way to do it is to kind of build your project first and then kind of narrate it. And you don't even have to build your project 100%, right? You can build it like 80% and then kind of finish it off as you go along, right? So you definitely want to, also the other thing you want to do is you want to break up your video days. So like you're not going to record 5 hours of video in one day. That is very difficult here. You want to be recording every single day. So you just kind of got to figure out a system. And once you get that system down, it works out very well. Now, a lot of other people do like marketing courses or things like that, or Photoshop courses. You know, these are definitely a little bit different than coding courses. You know, you can definitely, you build up your slides, you maybe even write your script, etc. You can just kind of get this done in a timely fashion. The whole point is that if you do just like a little bit every day, the course gets done. But going backwards is really difficult. And again, a lot of people, they'll do editors, right? And the thing about e-learning is it's kind of like restaurants or food. Like restaurants, games, movies. People think that just because they've gone to school, they know how a course should go. Just like they've been to a restaurant, they know what good food is. They've seen a movie, so they know how to be a movie director. They've played a video game, so they know how to be a game designer. Like it's that kind of thing that you see a lot of in the e-learning industry, right? And sometimes a lot of people will just make a stink about something for no reason here. You definitely want, like, if it's not critical, then you got to put it out. And if you're just first starting out, your first course should just be out there just so you can get as much feedback as possible, right? And so again, when it comes to the quality, this is just the way a lot of stuff is done, because, you know, if you change your quality from like B+ to A+, you probably won't make much more money than for the work that you put in. And, you know, that's kind of a problem here. Whereas in the game industry, it will absolutely make a huge difference. App industry, movie industry, all that stuff here. And that's why I say that the quality doesn't matter as much in the e-learning industry. First of all, people don't view courses the same way they do as movies or games, but they do know quality here. And you know what the funny thing is I've seen a lot of amazingly produced courses over the years, and they've just fallen flat on their face. In fact, there was one course, which I can't remember who did it. They were on Skillshare. This was years ago. and it was a web development course, and I was absolutely blown away with the quality of it. And that person, I don't think, is even doing web development tutorials anymore, right? It was probably one of the most highly produced courses I have ever seen on one of these platforms, and I was blown away. I'm like, whoa, this person's going to be, really, really good. And I don't think that person's making tutorials anymore, right? It didn't work. And Skillshare is a whole other video, which I should probably make of, by the way. But Skillshare is not the place to make money. And I don't know if Skillshare is going to IPO or not. It's a good question. It might. But Skillshare is like the other thing than Udemy, and it really isn't. It doesn't really compare. It just doesn't really compare. So in the end, when it comes to your course, you want to think, you don't want to go back, and the less editors you have, the better, right? If you're gonna have, let's say, 5 people on your team, you might have a person that helps you with the code or with the content first before you start video editing. You might have a video editor. You might have like an animator, and then like a marketing person. Like that's kind of a good way to set up 5 people. If you're gonna get 5 people to work on a course, that's what you got to do. But like having one person video record and then edit a bunch of stuff, that's also not good, right? That's really not that good. Because editors, I see this every day. There are companies that just edit too hard. Now, some companies do better than others, but the editing, you always have to ask yourself, will this edit make me more money? If the answer is no, then don't edit it. It's just that simple, right? You always have to ask that question. And that's the thing that you just kind of, you got to do. Now, of course, this can all change if quality just becomes more of a differentiator of sales, right? If that happens, then you do need to start editing a bit more. But that's not going to happen. I shouldn't say that's not going to happen, but that's unlikely to happen anytime soon. It's just because, Udemy is really focused on the business side of things, and they're not really focused on the creators making a lot of money. And it used to be the other way around. They were focused more on people making money. But there's so many things we could do in the e-learning space that could make content way better, but the money just isn't there. Like from a person who's been doing this for 10 years, the money just really isn't there for you to scale, right? So what happens is that, you make your course by yourself with PowerPoints and video, and like, okay, well, let's say I take the quality up like 3 times, make everything a lot better. And then all of a sudden it's going to cost, let's say, 3 times as much. Well, you release that course and it makes the same amount of money, right? Like that's what happens. And well, what are you going to do about it, right? You're obviously not going to take those extra steps because, if you're making the same amount of money, regardless of what happens, you want to keep your expenses as low as possible, which means keeping the quality is just enough to sell, right? And that's the way things are. That could change. It probably will change in the future, but when, I don't know. I can tell you when is if Udemy decides to reduce their restrictions. And if they reduce their restrictions, they'll probably get a lot more sales, right? Anyway, I want to know your thoughts down below. Please comment on this video. This channel does not get enough comments. I want to know your thought process on making an online course or just what you think of the e-learning industry in general. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.